Hello, I'm Reverend Rick, and it is my honor to be with you today. We really hope that this video is a blessing to you. And if it is, please consider making a donation. People watch our videos locally when they cannot necessarily come to church throughout the United States and the world. So please join us and click the link below and make a donation. Thank you, and let this be a blessing to you.
All right, let us prepare ourselves. If you put your hand over your eyes, I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
And now over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today.
I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today.
And now over your heart, and extend out your arms, I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Now there must be somebody in the church this morning who's thinking, oh my God, I drove all the way over here to hear that? That's my spiritual nourishment this morning? Yeah, it is. It's a simple one. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. But you know, I think if we can, and most people would say, look, I know that. I learned that in kindergarten. I've known that all my life. Me too. I've known that all my life. But do I do it? See, I think our work is not to know about things intellectually, but to know them in our heart so that it can flow into our actions. My goal with this topic, clear is kind, unclear is unkind, is to elevate it to spiritual practice, so that we can begin moving through life in a new way, in our way. See, it's easy for us to feed people half-truths or total BS because we think that's what they want to hear, because we're afraid that it'll hurt their feelings if we tell them what we consider to be our truth in our life. But truthfully, it's not them we're so worried about. It's ourselves. It's saving ourselves from the discomfort of having somebody else feel uncomfortable in our presence in our life. It's unkind for us not to be clear with our spouse, with our neighbors, with the people we work with in our life, with our kids. That's unkind. And it's especially unkind when we're not clear with them and they don't know what our expectations are, but we still hold them accountable to expectations that we have never been able to verbalize in our life. It's not impossible to say in a kind way clear things, things people may not want to hear, but to say it in a kind way. But the problem is, it's much easier for us to avoid that and to protect ourselves from any discomfort by telling people what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. See, my feeling is we would need a whole lot less reunification of families and estranged friendships if we could get this one little spiritual truth and begin to work with it in every single day. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. See, telling the truth and telling the truth quickly is a foundation of happy marriage. It's a foundation of happy parenting. It's a foundation of authentic friendship, telling the truth and telling it quickly. It takes courage, however, to be able to tell the truth and tell it quickly. You have to have not only courage to speak the words, but courage to stick around as the messiness begins to follow. People who are unhappy with what was just said. You have to stick with it. You have to stick with them. Many of you have seen the show Authentic Voices. Authentic Voices is a small theater group that comes out of this church. It's made up of African Americans, European Americans, Latin Americans, gay people, transgender people, straight people. And we came together for a year to write and to tell each other our stories. And I am telling you that it was challenging. We worked together for a year. We'd write and then we'd share. And we'd write and then we'd share. And sometimes people would call us on what they felt was us trying to make ourselves look better than what we should be looking, given what we had gone through. So I'm here to tell you that there was a lot of tears, there was a lot of slamming of doors, there was some name calling, there was some I'm leaving and never coming back, but that never happened. For as upset, as hurt as we would get with one another, as mad as we would get with one another, we always came back to deal with the message. As a result of that, a very fine production resulted in us bringing that to the stage. How did it happen? It happened because we were willing to have the courage to be clear and kind and to stick with the message and not run away with it. So the next time you're tempted to make somebody else feel better by mumbling something that is a half-truth or something that's not true at all, remember that you have just done an unkind thing to yourself and to the other person. Those subjects that we're afraid to talk about with other people, that we're afraid to be clear with other people around, they will store up and they'll begin to form resentments around those issues. And pretty soon, separation will be the result. Things we're afraid to talk about are driven by our ego. Our ego says, I'm not going to say that because I have to protect myself from their discomfort. How we get through that, how we get the courage to go ahead and do it anyway, even though we want with all of our heart to protect ourselves, is to pay attention to our heart. Our heart is much bigger and stronger than our ego is. And we have to learn to trust it. To learn to trust what's going on in your heart. Don't override it with your thinking all of the time. When something comes up as true in your heart, give it a moment at least to check it out. That's what Reverend Liz's class is all about, is figuring out how to listen to that which is in your heart in a way that you're not going to override it all the time and think it's not right. See, we have to take off our armor. Everybody say the word armor. Armor. Your armor is simply a defense mechanism. That's all it is. That's all your armor is. You know, and we don't actually have guns for our armor, but we have more like words that we beat each other up with. Those are the weapons that we have. We have to put down those weapons of words for one another and show up in real ways, in authentic ways. So what does our armor look like? Well, on the top of the list of our armor, and I actually don't usually say this is universally true, but maybe true for half of the congregation, I actually think this is universally true. I think it's the top of our armor for everybody, and that is perfectionism. Brene Brown says, whenever perfectionism is in the driver's seat, shame is riding shotgun. I think that's powerful. So let's look at what perfectionism is not. It is not the same as striving for excellence. It is not the same as having a healthy achievement in your life, looking for healthy achievement and growth. It's simply a defense mechanism. It's armor. Perfectionism is armor for us. It's not about, perfectionism is not about self-improvement. It's about seeking approval from other people. Not from ourselves, but from other people. The perfectionist mantra is this: I am what I accomplish. I am how successful I am at pleasing other people. I am how I perform in the world. The antidote for perfectionism is awareness. In fact, to be truthful with you, awareness is the antidote for most of the spiritual maladies we come in contact with. That's why we named this place the Center for Spiritual Awareness. Because once we have awareness, it's much easier for us to deal with whatever it is that's going on in our life. Now, oftentimes, we need help identifying that we've just armored up. We need help identifying that we're in a perfectionistic mode at that point. And that's when we have the people on our square squad. So if you weren't here last Sunday, I talked about Brene Brown's idea of having a square squad. And you take a 1 inch by 1 inch piece of paper, that's small, 1 inch by 1 inch, and you write down the names of people whose opinions about you matter to you. Not the people who are just going to, no, the people whose opinions matter to you. And you get to say who those people are, so that they can begin to help you when you're stuck in that perfectionistic mode. Now, if you grew up in a family for whom a mistake caused lots of drama in the family, they weren't willing to just ride with mistakes and maybe do some gentle corrections, but it was a big brouhaha whenever you made a mistake, chances are you have a heavy dose of perfectionism. Here's the good news. Whatever we learn, we can unlearn. You can grow out of it. Ernest Holmes said, whatever we learn, we can unlearn. You were not born with perfectionistic behaviors. You will notice that babies fall down and they get back up and they're not beating themselves up. They make mistakes. Kids make mistakes and they just keep going on and doing. They don't shame themselves. That's a learned behavior. All learned behaviors can be unlearned. The second armor that I think right behind perfectionism is that we forget to celebrate our life when things are going well in our life. When something good happens in our life, do you go out and you celebrate only to find yourself thinking, when is the other shoe going to drop? What's going to happen? When is somebody going to take? When we were in Human Spirit, I heard this several times. I'm afraid to want something because every time I get what I want, it gets taken away from me. If that's a pattern of thinking that you've gone into, we have to work with it. If you find yourself thinking, when is the other shoe going to drop? You know, you got a promotion or you got pregnant, you've been wanting to get pregnant for a while, you finally got pregnant, you became a grandparent, and for a brief second, you're joyous. You just let the joy wash over you. And then 5 seconds later, you're panicked about something bad happening. Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob call that impending doom in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a powerful state to have impending doom in our life. Brene Brown, who deals only in statistics, Brene Brown says this, statistically, 90% of parents will stand over their crib, look at their baby, and think, I have so much love. I can't even imagine how I could get any more love for this baby in my heart. And then 10 seconds later, they're worried about what might happen to that very baby, what they might do to keep that baby safe. So why is it that we insist on dress rehearsals about tragic moments in our life? Brene Brown says the reason that we have dress rehearsals for those tragedies that happen in our life is because joy is the most vulnerable emotion that we have. Joy is the most vulnerable emotion that we have. So when something joyful happens, we start planning to be hurt behind that joy. We start planning to how are we going to deal with the disappointment? How am I going to deal with the fear? But here's the thing. You cannot plan for painful moments. You cannot plan for painful moments. See, and sadly that doesn't stop us. We keep doing it, even though it's true. We can't plan. And the planning turns into invitation. And that is a science of mind foundational belief. That which we're thinking begins to become our call to come here. So if we're giving dress rehearsals to painful moments, it's like sending the invitation. Come on, painful moment, come on. I'm ready for you. I've been thinking about you. I have a plan of might not work, might work, but I'm going to keep planning. Let's not plan for our painful moments anymore. But the good news is, just like perfectionism, it can be unlearned. impending doom can be unlearned. So what is it? What is it that people who lean into joy and don't plan for the tragic moments in their life have in common? One of the things that they have in common is gratitude. And here, I'm not talking about an attitude of gratitude. That's a wonderful thing, but that's not what this is about. If you want to lean into joy, and you want to elevate this to a spiritual practice and lean into joy, you have to begin to write down and share the grateful things that you have in your life. Some people write them in a journal, other people put them in their telephone, but they have them every day. They write down something that they're grateful for that happened in their life. Simple spiritual practice, yes. Life-changing spiritual practice, yes. Do we ignore it because it's too simple? Yes, we do. So I'm going to ask you this week to write down a day in which you, just one day, in which you are grateful for some events in your life. Journal, put them on the phone, whatever you want. And then share them with somebody. You know, at Thanksgiving, don't we often, in our families of origin and families of choice, we get around a table and we say one thing we're grateful for? That's common practices in Thanksgiving dinners. I'm suggesting we don't wait for Thanksgiving, but we do it this week. Sit down with your family this week and share something you're grateful for. For those of you who aren't in family units, who live alone, put it on Facebook. Write down the one thing, one time this week that you're grateful for. I mean, I read so much stuff on Facebook that I'm thinking, why is that even on Facebook? But it is. So let's match it with something that we're grateful for with other people. The final armor I want to talk about today is after perfectionism and impending doom is numbing. We all numb. We all numb. We all have our favorite way of numbing. Mine is food. Used to be alcohol. Some people it's work. Some people it's social media. Some people it's shopping. Some people it's TV. Some people it's video games. Some people it's porn. Doesn't matter what it is. We all have it. For some of us, numbing simply takes the edge off. But here's the problem. Using numbing to take the edge off your life can very quickly lead to addiction. Because there's never enough. There's never enough numbing that we have. The problem with numbing is that we can't select which emotions to numb. Once you start numbing, you're numbing the darkness and the light. Once you start numbing, you're numbing your good feelings and the feelings that are hard for you. Same antidote for numbing, becoming aware. Becoming aware. And that will take courage in your life. There are two questions you can ask yourself to stop numbing. The first question is, what is this feeling and where did it come from? What is this feeling and where did it come from? And the second question is, what will bring me real food, To say that I need a meeting is an understatement. Do you want joy in your life? Numbing isn't going to work. Here's the thing about numbing. It's tricky because sometimes you take a bite, say, of chocolate cake and it just tastes so good. That's not numbing, that's enjoying life. Shoving an entire chocolate cake in your mouth is numbing. I've done both. So what if the answer was just as simple as these two questions? One, what are these feelings and where do they come from? And the second is, what will bring me real comfort, not just numbing comfort? Many of you know that I'm a fan of Joe Dispenza, the neuroscientist, Joe Dispenza. And one of the things that he says is that your personality creates your personal reality. Your personality creates your personal reality. Now, when I first heard that, I thought that can't be true. Because I know with my own kids and other people's kids I see, they come out, they're babies, and they have totally different personalities. So I think, oh, you must come with that. Joe Dispenza says, no, you don't come with that. You might come with some preferences, but you don't come with your personality. That personality comes from how you think, how you feel, and what you do. That's what a personality is. It's how you think, how you feel, and what you do. And the good news is, Ernest Holmes says, change your thinking, change your life. We can begin to change this person. You don't like your personal reality in some area of your life? Maybe it's romance, maybe it's money, maybe it's health, whatever it is. You can begin to change that personal reality by changing your personality. What is your personality? It's how you think, how you feel, and what you do. Once you start thinking differently, how you feel and what you do will simply follow suit in your life. One of the reasons that I like Brene Brown so much, and she's who next week we're going to tackle a little more of her book, but one of the reasons I like her is because she does things simply. She doesn't make it challenging. She doesn't make it difficult to understand. It's simple spiritual practices that will elevate our vibration in our life. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. I invite you to work with that this week. Find some area, some relationship in your life where you're afraid to tell the truth. You've been holding it back. And know that the consequence of holding back that truth is that eventually you'll begin to separate. You know, when I hear couples come in and I actually do believe that sometimes relationships are simply complete. And the best thing for people to do, for the children and for themselves, is to gently and lovingly go their own ways. But oftentimes I hear people and I say, what happened? We've just grown apart. We've just grown apart. How do you grow apart? You grow apart by withholding yourself and not sharing what's in your heart. You grow apart by not being clear. By saying, I can't tell him that, I can't tell her that, because it will hurt their feelings. And pretty soon, you're like, oh, done. And it's too late. So this is a powerful teaching that she has.